What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Dutch Grand Prix deadline live stream for Saturday, August 24th. I guess I already said Dutch Grand Prix live stream. So there we go. Say hello wherever you are in the world. Let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me. Always happy to kind of have that in there. This is the team as of right now, but major changes are coming. We've had 2 free practices. Free practice 3 was pretty much a crash out thanks to a certain Logan Sargent not really controlling his car once again for another season in Zandvoort. Logan Sargent kind of crashed out there. But yeah, I have a poll up right now saying, are you going to have Logan Sargent in your team? He is currently in my team. I don't anticipate him being there at the end of this live stream as we go to qualifying in less than 1 hour. So let me know what your comments, your concerns, your thoughts are about your lineup, about this weekend, and we will see how it goes from here. So I'll get my initial thoughts out of the way. I am pretty set on a wild card this week. I got myself into a spot of bother here after Spa, where I was fully in on the Max Verstappen engine penalty hype train, and it did not work out one bit. Kind of. I mean, got very lucky. Results were good. The process was pretty bad. I talked about that on some of my episodes this week, which, did 4 episodes this week. Summer break recap, early team thoughts, green flag, yellow flag, red flag, about my kind of like buy, sell, hold for the F1 fantasy community here. And then yesterday or Thursday, I did the big race preview. So hopefully you guys were checking those out. If you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, you will not miss a single episode. So right, like I said, wild card for me, Max out, probably Yuki out, probably Joe Guan Yu out. I'm probably getting rid of 6 of these 7 assets this week because Nico Hulkenberg has a brake issue, which is terrifying. And Logan Sargent just destroyed the back half of his brand new Williams. So that is also unfortunate. And yeah, the only assets I really trust right now are McLaren and Mercedes. So that is who I'm trying to get on here. So let's go through my initial thoughts, and then we can get into the F1 Fantasy Tools simulations, which they will not have an FP3 sim because it was like the crash and then nothing really happened. There's a little bit of action at the end there, but nothing too big. But yeah, give me a comment in the channel or in the comment side over there, and let me know what you are thinking ahead of the deadline lock in 57 minutes. But my team here, probably going to go Oscar, George, and then, got to get my other constructor in here in Mercedes. And then, so Alexander Albon is definitely going to be one of the guys in my squad. Pierre Gasly is likely going to be another asset there. And then that's going to leave me with Valtteri Bottas, which I don't feel great about. I think Williams are going to be better, but for this weekend, at this point, with what is going on with Logan Sargent, I really feel like he is in a spot of bother. It sounds like he's not going to get back in time for qualifying. Actually, something interesting that I saw, I'm not sure if I've seen this before on the F1 Fantasy website, but it says here in the update, Logan Sargent unlikely to participate in qualifying following crash at FP3. Hadn't seen that before. Didn't know they were giving updates like that in the just the general home screen for F1 Fantasy. I guess I never go there. I just automatically go to my team or whatever that is. So yes, just kind of erased all of that, but let's go back here. So the only asset I'm planning on keeping is McLaren with this team right now. And while I'm doing that, Real King 52 says, what should I do with 115.4 million budget? Oof, that is tough. I think you can probably only fit in like one A tier asset there. So I have 119.5 in this team here. So let's see if we can build a team for you here with just that. So I think McLaren and Mercedes are where you want to go here, and then get one of these top tier assets here and within the McLaren Mercedes kind of build. Um, so Lando would be the obvious choice. That would take up the most money, and then you'd probably be scrapping around in the midfield here. So how much can we get here for you if we go with Pierre, Yuki, and yeah, we're gonna have to go back down here to like Nico, and that would leave me with 5.5 million. So that would leave you with about, oh goodness, doing math live, you'd be about 1.4 million there. So you'd be a little bit short of being able to get Nico up to anyone else, which is unfortunate. However, if you went down from like a Lando to a Lewis, if you believe in Lewis, that would give you plenty of money here to upgrade Nico to whoever you really wanted. You could even go up to a Lance Stroll. No, you couldn't. You'd be 4 million. So you could go up to a Danny Rick. Okay, there we go. So something like this. You'd probably have to just only do a one premium driver lineup, Real King 52. And that's kind of where you would be at for this weekend. If you can get to these, I don't know how many transfers you have, if you have the wild card, that sort of thing. But that is where I would go. Looks like you can't get to Lando and avoid the kind of back three guys, but that is an option for you there. But like I said, for me, the wild card is gonna be active. The reason I'm going with Oscar and George over like a Lando and a Lewis is, I mean, one, Lewis and Lando cost more than Oscar and George, but I think that, or I believe that Oscar and George have more budget building potential. And I'm really trying to get that for my team with 10 races left. So George, Oscar here, and then I'm going to have to go with Pierre. I believe in Alex Albon, and then that leaves me with Valtteri Bottas there. That's about the gist of my team. I don't feel good about it. I could obviously put Logan Sargent in there, and the F1 Fantasy Tools, or writer over at F1 Fantasy Tools, said that if it's declared a wet qualifying, then the 107% rule isn't in play in F1 Fantasy. So that would mean that if Logan Sargent doesn't set a time in Q1, he wouldn't be penalized -5 for not setting a time, because in a wet qualifying, that rule is kind of out the window. And then if Logan Sargent is also declared like unable to start by Williams before tomorrow's race, like if he's not on the official start grid, he also doesn't get a -20 for like not classified or whatever. Because last year, Lance Stroll in Singapore smashed the crap out of his car in qualifying with like a minute to go or something, couldn't race the next day and got a 0. He wasn't on the official start list, so therefore he was not classified and just took a 0 for the weekend. So just something to think about there. If you want to roll with Logan Sargent, you could get a little bit more bang for your buck here. There was also reports coming out about the old owners of Haas, the Russian guys, Yukalki or something, I don't even remember that, are apparently trying to seize Haas's assets this week in Dutch courts. So, like, I would have enough money to go with Kevin Magnussen, but there's also the whole thing with like Hulkenberg's brakes aren't working. What does that mean? I am not entirely sure, but I don't really love running double Williams. I do miss out on getting a Haas asset into my squad, but at the end of the day, this is kind of where I'm at. And with Valtteri in my team, if I need some extra budget next week, I can just go down from Valtteri to Logan, where he's probably going to be 4.8, save myself a little bit more money, and then I can bump up wherever I need to. Like if Lewis or Lando look really good, that would be an easy kind of 2 moves for me, like a Valtteri to a Logan, and then an Oscar to a Lando. Like say Lando comes out of the second half of the season just firing on all cylinders. That is kind of my thinking. So that would give me enough flexibility to kind of move around all over the place. Mercedes and McLaren are far and away the 2 favorite constructors this week. We can go over here to the F1.com practice data from yesterday. So they've got the qualifying simulation pace here: McLaren, Red Bull, Mercedes, 1, 2, 3, Ferrari way back, Haas, Williams, RB, Aston Martin, Alpine, and Sauber all the way at the back there. And then in the race simulation, McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari, Williams, Haas, Alpine, RB, Aston Martin, and Sauber. So the thing about Sargent again is it's going to spend a whole hour talking about Logan Sargent here. Is that if he does start P20, which he will more than likely, if he can get on the grid, on the start grid tomorrow, and they can get that car through the race, I think he has a good chance of overtaking at least the Saubers on the track. He'll start P20. He might have to start from the pit lane just with how many changes they make to the car. I'm not entirely sure how that works. Will Buxton on F1 TV was talking about something like they can't actually start work on the chassis for the car until it's declared that they are able to, something a little bit complicated there. But that is just, yeah, big Logan Sargent throwing a spanner in the works, as is F1 fantasy tradition at this point for his team. Racing is Epic says, "Hey, Ewan, hello. Glad to be back from the summer break. Glad that we have F1 fantasy back in our lives here." Real King 52 says, "I like your idea of running one A-tier driver, but what are your thoughts on running Piastri, Russell, Sargent, Hulkenberg, Bottas, Mercedes, and McLaren?" So you're going with the cheaper assets there. I mean, if you can get to that, that's good. It's just Sargent is going to take a -5 for qualifying, more than likely, and could potentially get on the start list and just one lap in be like, no, thank you. Hulkenberg has a brake issue, which is incredibly sketchy. And Bottas is probably in the slowest car on the grid. Well, besides Zhou Guanyu, his teammate. So that's kind of, I mean, the upside of Piastri and Russell probably outweighs the downside, but you could be looking at like a -45 between Sargent and Hulkenberg there. And that would be a big ask for Piastri and Russell to kind of save you from that. So, especially with like a lot of other teams, maybe just playing it safe for one A-tier driver. Um, and that's kind of it there. So, I do like the idea of just kind of trying to get the better assets in the game and just kind of playing DNF roulette with the C tier drivers. I don't mind that at all if you're kind of trying to catch up and stuff. But that would be my thoughts on that. But I do like the Mercedes McLaren is pretty much a must have for me this week. And on F1 TV, Sam Collins and FP3 was talking about how Ferrari are just super slow in the straights. I think they said that they were the slowest team in the straights, and that doesn't seem to bode well for Monza next week either. So unless Ferrari can just bring something that is incredible and turn their like prospects around, I would expect that we may not be in a rush to get the kind of red stallions back into our squad here. Yusuf says, "Hey, what is the best team? Keep in mind, I have 2 transfers with Verstappen, Sargent, Sonoda, Zhou Guanyu, Albon, Mercedes, and Red Bull." I would probably, let's see, you could go Red Bull down to Mercedes. If I can just go check my math here. Red Bull down to Mercedes, that would save you 6.1 million. And then you'd have Sargent, Sonoda, Zhou Guanyu, Albon. That doesn't really get you anywhere, but you could get out of the Logan Sargent business and go from 5 million to 11.1-ish. Maybe if you have 0.2 in the bank, you can get up to Daniel Ricciardo. That might be where you want to go with that if you only have the 2 free transfers. If you have the wild card, I have a very similar team to you, Youssef. So I'm activating my wild card this week and kind of just flipping the switch, getting the reset done, getting 4 McLaren and Mercedes assets in. So if you have that in your back pocket, I would suggest using that this week because I think George and Oscar are 2 of the best budget building options moving forward until Ferrari gets it back together. So if you need some budget as well and some points, I think Oscar and George are your best assets there. I'm not entirely like I'll never count out Max because he's such a good driver, probably the best driver on the grid right now. But I think you can get away from that. You could just go Verstappen down to like a George or an Oscar and then upgrade Sargent to like another CT driver and then just hope that that Sergio, who has been invisible and not really had a good weekend so far, kind of gets it together on a Sunday. But that is just not going to work at all. Racing is Epic says Hulkenberg and Sargent. Who do I sell? Depending on, oh, you just said here, other update. Williams will definitely have the car ready for tomorrow. They just posted an update on X. Let's go check that out, shall we? Here, where are we at? Where are we at? Oh, here we go. Team update. We are assessing the chassis, but it currently looks okay. We aim to repair and build up the chassis to be ready for qualifying. However, the amount of work to be completed will be different, but we'll give it everything. Okay, so if they're even kind of thinking about qualifying, I think you're right, Racing is Epic, that they'll definitely be good to go for the race tomorrow. So that does change my thinking. If you can keep Sargent in your lineup and maybe just swallow the -5 and he can overtake those Saubers tomorrow, you'll be good to go. So yeah, the Williams has been looking good. The only thing that we think about is what are they repairing that car with? I know James Vowles said that they have spare parts for these new upgrades that they brought, but he was also saying that like you also need to consider like what if something happens to Alex's car? So that's kind of like what are they going to do there? They could use that as an opportunity to just run the old spec and just compare the upgrades to the new or the upgrades to or up yeah upgrades to the old car and see where it's different. So Logan could be in one of this like a slower version of the Williams. He's probably not going to get a fully upgraded car considering he just smashed that about a couple of hours ago. So while it's a good sign that they are even hoping for qualifying, if you can like set a time or if it gets wet, that would be pretty interesting. But F1 Fantasy Hub Rob here says Sargent could be an outside chance to make it for qualifying. I think I may have to eat the -5 for a non-classification in qualifying and a price drop if I roll with him, given they might be able to turn the ground around faster than I expect. I expect Sargent to start the race tomorrow. So he feels the same way as that. Racing is epic. Real King 52 says thanks. Oh yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Epa says, my team is Oscar, Russell, Magnussen, Hulkenberg, Sonoda. We will see. That's a strong budget you have got there, my friend. So great job by you. Lucky919 says, I could wildcard into Russell, Piastri, Hulkenberg, Gasly, Albon with Mercedes, McLaren. They're just, that's hats off there. Yeah, you must have about 2 million more in budget than I do. So yeah, Hulkenberg is a little sketch because of this brake issue. I'm not entirely sure how we are feeling about that right now, but yeah, it sounds like they didn't repair it on Friday, so it's not great at all. I thought I just saw another update here. Happens to everyone. Okay. Yeah, but it sounds like Williams are pretty hopeful that they're going to get that car back on track. So that does change things. So share this tab instead. So if I went down from a Valtteri to a Logan, if I just took the -5, thank you for the update. Racing is epic. Appreciate you keeping me honest on that one. That gives me 2.8 million in the bank, and I can upgrade Pierre. Goodness, I really need to reposition this monitor. Pierre can go all the way to Kevin Magnussen, which is not bad. Just running double Williams again. Ugh, really not a fan of that. But while we are here, if you're enjoying the content, if you're enjoying the pre-recorded stuff, if you're enjoying the live streams, just let me know in the comments below. Give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and we will just go from there, going on to bigger and better things as we move along through this season here. Practice data. So let's go to F1 Fantasy Tools version 2. If you are not a premium member, I could not recommend this website enough. You can sign up for the Patreon and you can get all of this access. They are updating the site for version 2. It is only for premium members. So like right now, it's on the screen. I'm a premium member. I can kind of just play around with it however I want. But I would highly suggest that you get on there as well. You can exclude players or drivers. You can include drivers. So if I want to exclude Hulkenberg with my T1 team, maximum budget, you can even like use which simulation Writer has put in. And you can also, if you go, where are we at here? There's somewhere on here where you can add the importance of the race and like what you think and what you like the most. So over here right now, I've got it set to my 119.5 million. I've got my unlimited because I got my wild card, and it is saying McLaren, Mercedes, Hamilton, Russell, Gasly, Albon, Zhou Guan Yu would be the best squad here. But my kind of option that I was thinking earlier over here is right there at option 3. So I feel pretty good. Um, but Epic brought up a good point. If we can't trust Hulkenberg, surely we can't trust Mag, right? Yeah, that is a good point as well. So, um, yeah, I think Hulkenberg or Bottas, Youssef. I'm inclined to go Bottas this week. Just sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. Obviously, Hulkenberg has had a way better season than Valtteri Bottas uh, from the beginning to right now. But this brake issue is terrifying. If there's just like even a tiny bit of precipitation tomorrow, which I don't think there's supposed to be, but the weather forecast is always changing up there. If you saw any of the FP3, it was wet and wild, especially in the last lap there. People were just going for it. So that's kind of where my thinking is. But if we can look at the F1 fantasy tools here, the expected points is Bottas 3.1, Hulkenberg 4.9. But with the risk of a brake issue for Hulkenberg, I think I'll just take the safety of Bottas, bank a couple of million in my budget, bring it into Monza, and just be that as it may. But yeah, this is kind of where my thoughts are at, kind of in line with F1 fantasy tools, which is always nice. Um, so yeah, 0.6 in the bank. I don't mind that, but I think I'm going to go with my gut here. I think Bottas and Gasly. I'm not a huge fan of the Alpine this weekend either. Yeah, I was watching FP3 on F1 TV, and Sam Collins was telling him to pack up and go home, which wasn't very nice, Sam, but I can see how that would happen. The nice thing is that in the data here, Alpine is at least in the mix with the rest of the field here. So if they qualify poorly, uh, like it says they might, their race pace could get them some much needed overtake points. We also can't forget that Gasly finished third here. I feel like that is just going under the radar. Like he went third here last year. So we will see how that goes. Yeah. Any other questions? Let's get into it. We are 22 minutes into the live stream. Hit me up with some questions. F1 fantasy, life in general. Does anyone have an update on the Brighton Man United game either? Because I have Minta in one of my EPL draft games. So any update there would be greatly appreciated as well. Lucky919 says, would Hulkenberg or Sargent be better if I had to choose between the two, as I could also use the extra 4 million somewhere else? I think Sargent. I think at this point, with the new update that Racing is Epic provided on the stream, so shout out to them. I think I would go Sargent. I think the budget savings, Sargent's going to tick down 0.2 no matter what. And yeah, Andy Assad, 1-0 Brighton. Welbeck, it's halftime now. Ooh, thank you, Andy. Appreciate that. Back to Lucky 919. Would Hulkenberg, yeah. So I would go Sargent because you get the budget savings. The upside of the Williams, like what I was saying earlier, just a few minutes ago about do we know exactly what Williams is going to put on Sargent's car since he just crashed with all those upgrades on there as well? Yeah, not great. So we don't know what they're going to put on the car, but they could put new upgrades on there. They could put the spare parts and just trust that Albon's not going to put it in the wall and just call it a day. And the Williams looks pretty nifty here, as you can see in F1.com's data here from Friday's practice. It's Williams' 5th fastest car in race pace. So not bad at all there either. Let me just double check here. And yeah, so F1 Fantasy Tools still has Williams as the second highest constructor at 8.6 points, or second lowest constructor, 8.6 points. But, that's just, I'm on the Zandvoort data there as well. Racing is Epic says, I have McLaren, Mercedes, 2 times Verstappen, Magnussen, Sonoda, Hulkenberg, Sargent with 118 million and 3 free transfers. Planning on McLaren, Mercedes, 2 times Hamilton, Russell, Sonoda, Bottas, Sargent. I'm hoping for no more Mercedes reliability issues. I mean, George has been so unlucky that his odds have to turn eventually, right? Like he was underweight and then he had a water system issue at Silverstone. And yeah, he's got 2 poles since Monaco, which is tied most with Verstappen and Lando, and just has generally been really strong, whether it's been wet qualifying, dry qualifying, been really impressive for George. That's why he's pretty much like a must have for me. If you're like under 120 million in budget right now, he has 4.3 million to go to become a tier A driver. He just has the most budget upside amongst the top 3 teams, because I think we're going to say that Ferrari is 4th now. Let me know in the comments below if you agree with that or not. So I think he's the cheapest of the top 4 teams, and he has the most to go until team A or tier A. So he's kind of a must have for me if you want a budget building lineup. And that's where I would go. Bottas and Sargent, not ideal. It's better than Joe and Sargent. And yeah, so I'm trying to think. You have 3 free transfers there. So you're keeping your constructors, moving Verstappen to Hamilton, Magnussen up to Russell, and then Hulkenberg down to Bottas. Okay, so how much will you have left in the bank after that racing? Is that I'd be interested to know. Sahil, Lando, Yuki, Albon, Nico, and Joe, what one change would you suggest and why? I would probably drop down from no, I don't like that. One change? Maybe it would be Lando to Oscar. Give yourself a little bit of budget, give yourself the potential for a bigger price rise. I don't think there's that much of a difference between Lando and Oscar right now. And Lando, that would give you a couple million in the bank, and then you could upgrade Joe to someone else, maybe a Gasly. Can you get up from, if you could maybe get up from Nico to Pierre Gasly with zero point 0.2 in the bank? That would be great. I would very much suggest that as well, because I just have enough to get that in on my wild card. So that is probably what I'm going to be doing with Alpine's kind of pretty good data for the race tomorrow. And yeah, all the other stuff. Yeah, Andy agrees. Nico to Gasly because Nico has DNF risk because of his brake issue. Boy Pears says, I only have 114.7 million. Who's best for budget building? Oscar or George for me, Boy Pears, because like I said, George has 4.3 million to go until tier A, and Oscar has 1.4 million to go until tier A, while Lewis only has 0.9. So if Lewis has like a big weekend this weekend, he's going to be a tier A asset, and you're not going to be building budget with him anymore come next weekend. Whereas with Oscar, even if he goes up 1 million, you'll still have one more week of him. If George has a great weekend, you'll probably have 2, 3, 4, 5 more weekends of him as your budget building option. So that is where I would go. I would definitely go with, I'd probably go Oscar, then George, just because I think Oscar has a little bit more upside than George, but George does have more budget building potential, but so does Oscar. 1.4 is going to help out quite a bit. Rahit said, you said Sargent is guaranteed a price drop. Well, that was before Racing is Epic shared the news that Logan is going to have a chance of getting his car ready for Sunday. So I don't actually think about that anymore. He is potentially going to have a -5 today, depending on what happens in qualifying. If qualifying is a wet qualifying, it sounds like he will not get a -5 because the 107% rule goes out the window, and then it won't be like a non-classified time or like not classified time kind of deal there. I think F1 Fancy Tools and Ryder were kind of speculating about that, but we will see how that goes. Racing at Epic says 0.8 left after that. I could go Piastri / Albon instead of Hamilton / Bottas, but I think Hamilton will out-qualify Piastri in the wet weather and stay ahead in the race. Fair enough. Not entirely sure how much of a, like, I mean, it could be like Hamilton qualifies P3 and Oscar qualifies P4. And I think Albon, especially in the Williams, he likes to qualify here. Last year in kind of crazy conditions, Albon qualified 4th. And then if tomorrow it's a dry race, which it looks like it's going to be, and that Williams is pretty nifty in a straight line, it could be tough for people to pass the Williams, especially Albon, who defends like an absolute champ down the straights here. So I would lean Piastri, Albon. But if your gut is telling you Hamilton, Bottas racing is epic, then go with your gut. And he said, yeah, Nico to Gasly because Nico has DNF risk. Yee says, 2 premium drivers, Piastri and Russell, means I have to take Sargent. I don't feel good about Sargent. I fear he will retire the car early on Sunday because car is not working. Great point. But if you have the no negative chip, you could just play that and put all your fears aside and save yourself 25 points potentially if he doesn't set a time in qualifying today, and if he doesn't finish tomorrow's race. So if you have the no negative chip, could be a time to deploy that as well. Just a reminder, if you're playing like a wild card or a limitless or anything, you can only play one chip every weekend in F1 Fantasy. So if you're planning to play the wild card, you can't also play the no negative chip. Just a heads up for that. Rahit says McLaren, Mercedes, Piastri, Russell, Albon, Gasly, Bottas. That is exactly the same team that I'm looking at, right? So hopefully great minds think alike there. I need to make 2 changes for my second team. Similar budget. Any suggestions to this team that's right up here? I mean, you can go Bottas to Sargent and then upgrade Gasly to one of the RB drivers. That would maybe be the way to go there as well. I guess I should start thinking about locking in my team because we are T minus 30 minutes to lineup lock. Let me know what lineup conundrums you have going on in F1 Fantasy. I am happy to help here. I'm just kind of twiddling my thumbs, waiting for lineup locks. Let's see. Got some Twitter questions here. Someone's replying to my tweet from this morning, which you can follow me on X at F1UNFPL. Butchered my team last time out. Any ideas on this strategy? No wild card. Got 2 free transfers. Let's see here. He's got Max, Nico, Pierre, Joe Guanyu, Logan. What should he do here, guys? What should we suggest to Dan the Texan? Downgrade Verstappen to Lando and upgrade Joe Guanyu or Logan to Albon and just keep Red Bull and McLaren? Doesn't seem bad to me. Let's just could downgrade Max to Lando and then upgrade Logan to Alb. Give that a like. Let's go back to the teams here. Does anyone else have any team recommendations? Kyle Pryor says hello. So, yep. Hope you are doing well, Kyle. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to hit that like button. Help me out there, buddy. So here is the squad right now, 9.9 million. Bottas. I think I'm just going to get this done, guys. Kind of Pierre, feeling good about this. Really, really don't like Valtteri Bottas being in there, but it is what it is. I could go with Sargent, but that just doesn't feel good. Like, this is the problem here. Like, if I go with Logan, Kyle said, I paid for this, so you better read it. First super chat in the history of F1 fantasy pole position from Kyle. So shout out to him. Thank you for supporting the channel. I appreciate it. I will buy a whole half an avocado with that $1.99 because groceries are out of control. So hopefully you can spare that $1.99 guy because half an avocado is better than no avocado at all. Yeah, it seems like with the Logan news that he's going to be okay. It's getting a little weird in here because I'm not sure what kind of conundrums we're going to have going forward. Oh, 11ify just posted there, who is a great account. If you like FPL as well, I don't mind that at all. Boy Parrot says, Joe or Bot? My gut and my heart both say Bottas. Maybe I'm just a sucker for that mullet. He was also the cover boy for the race preview earlier this week. So maybe that is where I'm at. Optimal teams here. So let's check out what 11ify wants us to do here with our budgets. I'm down here 119, Norris, Russell, Albon, Bottas, Joe, McLaren, Mercedes. Look at this. McLaren, Mercedes, McLaren, Mercedes, McLaren, Mercedes. Everybody wants McLaren, Mercedes. So if you are, where was that? Sorry, I forgot your name. Boyd Paris. Here you go. 114.7 million. Where are you at? Check out this chart. Go hang out with 11 He's got Piastri, Russell, Albon, Bottas, Sargent, McLaren, and Mercedes. So maybe that is where you want to go with that option, Boyd Paris. That's pretty good by me. I mean, you get two premium drivers, you get the two constructors that you want. You just kind of play in DNF roulette. As you can see here, this is the price change, the EV, according to all of these guys. So Norris, see, this is kind of where we're living there. So if I go down to Sargent instead of Bottas, that gives me enough money to kind of get up to Hamilton, but it's like 0.7 kind of an EV, which is just, I mean, the price value is better there too. So I don't love that either. And then for the constructors, McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull, just not trusting Checo Perez at all, which I 100% understand. F1 Fantasy Tips has their lineup locked here. Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas, Sargent, Hulkenberg, Russell with Mercedes and McLaren. I think we're going to see a lot of these lineup guys. So let me know how close you are to these. Matt and Tommy go with their qualifying predictions. Verstappen, Norris, Piastri. See, I'm hoping that Tommy's right because this is kind of where I'm going to be going too. Countdown to qualifying is on. Williams have looked at Sargent's car and shrugged. Yep, sure. Spanners from the Missed Apex podcast. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on Twitter here. Let's go sort out my T3 and my T2 teams here real quick. How about that? Let's go share this tab instead. This could also use a wildcard. I was talking about this in the race preview and the early team selection as well. Let's load this up. So F1 Fantasy Tools simulation is telling me to go with, actually, let me just double check that I've got all the right simulations and stuff in here too. McLaren, Mercedes, Hamilton, Piastri, Tsunoda, Gasly, Albon, but that's going to be a -10 for me. So if I don't want the best team, so that's going to roll in 210 points, it says. Where's the next best team that doesn't have a hit? Yeah, it's just telling me to take a hit everywhere. So I don't know. I don't want to really use the wild card for -10. That seems a little sketch. This team over here, the T3 team, is top 500 in the world, which is infuriating. Let me know if your T1 team is doing worse than one of your other teams. Just it happens that way sometimes. So I think for this, I will just keep it simple. I will just get Max out, Red Bull out, and then it says to keep, yeah, I guess I got to take Tsunoda, Gasly, Albon. I got to take Tsunoda out here. And this mic is like right in the way of my monitor. I should really change that moving forward because it is a hassle to keep trying to read. So then it wants me to bring in Hamilton. And then where are you, Oscar? Oscar. And then just the Mercedes. I've only got 2 free transfers, so this team is going to take a hit, so that will go down a little bit. I could upgrade Nico here, I guess, and then I could activate the wild card. They seem to not really care that much about Nico's status, but that could get me anywhere here, I guess. I mean, I could go up to Ocon, and that would be fine. Maybe I'll just activate the wild card for this here. It's not bad either. Let's see, what would F1 Fantasy Tools have me do if I did activate the wild card? Locky919 says, I can have Piastri, Tsunoda, Sargent, McLaren, Mercedes with either Russ and Mag or Ham and Gas, or Russell, Piastri, Magnussen, Bottas, Gasly, McLaren, and Mercedes. I can have Piastri. I think I would go Hamilton and Gasly there, Locky919. And just because of Haas's potential brake issues, sounds like that is not great. So that is where I'm kind of leaning for this week. Hopefully that helps. But yeah, the Russell, Piastri, Magnussen, Bottas, Gasly is not bad either. Just, yeah, if you can avoid the Sargent thing might pay out. It's going to be tough. I'm not feeling great about it, so I probably won't go there. And like I said, I can just drop down Uh, just I know that Bottas can get around a track, and he hasn't been too bad in recent weeks. We can actually just go check that out here real quick. Let's check out Bottas's results recently. 3, 1, 4, 8, 1, 8, 8. -2 in Italy. He's not really getting any points rises, but the drip of 0.1, it's yeah, I just don't think Sargent is in line for a budget rise. Not entirely sure. Let's go check out the weather in Zandvoort, because when I last checked, it was going to be raining. Yellow warning for thunderstorms. Dull and dreary with a couple of showers, mainly early. Windy this afternoon. Tonight, passing shower. Let's check out here. Yeah, 3, 4 o'clock, right when qualifying is happening. 40% chance of precipitation. So the wet qualifying might bail out Sargent managers, which is fine. That is going to happen. So I don't hate that either. So uh, yeah, but I think I'm going to stick with Bottas for now. Where else are we? We are 19 minutes until the deadline, guys. Let me know what your conundrums are. Or is it just kind of a simple weekend in F1 fantasy now that we are kind of getting to the point where Mercedes and McLaren are looking like the best options here? What are we going to do with that? Sonoda? Yeah, I don't know. This is my T3 team here. 11.4 million in the bank. That will give me, I guess it wants me to put Hulkenberg in here, but don't feel great about that. So maybe I will go with, I don't want to go with double Alpine in this lineup either. Back to the X machine. Let's see. Pop Pan Man says, don't really want to use 2 transfers to sort out Sargent. Can't help. Yeah, that is very unfortunate. I feel lucky that I have the wild card. I also feel like it maybe, yeah, look, F1 Fantasy Tools, talk about what we were just talking about at the beginning of the stream. I haven't really seen that before, where they were kind of chirping on about like updates here. Who is what else have we got here? Okay, nothing else going on, which is fine there. Yeah, Tom, I think it was Tom and Rob both had Russell, so hopefully they don't have to go through too much pain this week as well. And I'm hoping to join them in the George Russell Love Fest here. I'm going to share this tab instead. Let's refresh here. So T3 team, Max, you can go now. Sonoda, you can go now. Red Bull, you can go now. We'll bring in Mercedes. We'll bring in Lewis, and we'll bring in Oscar. I guess the question would be, who would you guys triple or not triple captain? I guess I've been talking about too much FPL this week. Triple captaining Holland, Erling Holland, has been quite a hot topic in F1 or FPL X community here. So I guess I would DRS boost with Lewis here. Lando was saying that Mercedes looked like the quickest car here. So that is what we will do. We will just, this team can kind of risk it for the biscuit. We'll take Hulkenberg and a potential brick issue, take a 10-point hit here, give the DRS boost to Lewis, and that will be that for the T3 team. T2 is a little bit of a mess. I submitted that team to the, whatchamacallit, the Zandvoort to Abu Dhabi team, or the league that they just put out there. So we'll see how that goes for the rest of the season. Tom Gillette says, would you go to 2 premium drivers if it means Sargent and -10, or stay with 1 premium and swap out Sargent? Example, Norris, Bottas, Albon, Hulkenberg, Sonoda, McLaren, Red Bull. I would try to, I think the upside of the 2 premium drivers and Sargent is worth it. The Sargent thing seems to be getting better by the minute, with the wet qualifying potential that his -5 would get wiped out, and the chance that his car is good to go and it's getting some of the upgrades, maybe not all of the upgrades, and it can still overtake the Saubers and potentially like an Aston Martin or something if things go according to plan. So I like the upside of the 2 premium drivers and Logan Sargent there. Tom, DesX101 says, hi, question. I have Max, Yuki, Sargent, Bottas, Albon, Red Bull, McLaren. 2B now feels bad to take -10 and still have Sargent. No maneuver there. So you would have to, right, because you can't get a, yeah, you'd have to take a, I mean, if you have your wild card, like I'm using DesX 101, you could get out of the Sargent business and still get that 2 premium driver lineup. If not, that is a little tougher. I was just telling Tom that I think the upside of a 2B driver lineup and having Sargent is better than not. So you could go Max to like a Lewis, a Red Bull, to a Mercedes, and you should have enough money to get uh maybe Yuki up to possibly Oscar. I'd have to like kind of see the exact numbers, but that feels close. And if not, then possibly George or Oscar and George there. Sachin says, who will be the better 2X between Piastri and Russell? I think it's a coin flip, but my gut is telling me that is Russell's time to kind of get some good luck on his side. So I think I'm going to be rolling with Russell in my T1 team. Speaking of that, let's get this T2 team sorted so we can move on to the T1 team with the wild card. It doesn't really like my lineup at all here. So McLaren, Mercedes, Norris, Russell, Albon, Sargent. Ooh, that is rough, huh? So I would go this here, bring in Mercedes. Man, everyone is going to have double Mercedes, huh? That's interesting. And then, so this is kind of where you're going. If you have to run the 2 smaller lineups, this is an option for you there. If you have about $1 million less than this team's budget, you could go with Bottas and run the. We were talking about this with one person's lineup earlier, whose name I have forgotten. So sorry about that. But going with the 3 lowest options should get you enough to get to this 2B lineup. I would put the DRS on Lando over George in this scenario, just because, yeah, I think that would be more sensible. But when it's just between Piastri and Russell, I feel like my gut is telling me Russell. So that is what I will be doing. Confirm these changes for my T2 team. Here we go. All righty, guys. We are T minus 13 minutes to that F1 Fantasy deadline. Let me know what your concerns are, what your lineup is. I know there's 3 other streams going on right now. I think Zach's got one, Rain's got one, and Fanamp's got one. So thank you if you are tuning in to this one. I appreciate it. Try to answer every single question that gets asked. So hopefully that helps or draws you over here, since you know that your question will definitely get answered. And this is where this is the T1 time. This is the wild card is happening on this team kind of team. So I'm taking out 6 of my 7 assets here this week. So I'm making use of that wild card, saving myself a -40. So that's nice. I don't think I'm going to end up going with Logan. I do think it's going to be a George, Oscar. I do like Gasly. I've been talking myself into Gasly for most of the morning now. I've been on Alex all week. If you watch green flag, yellow flag, red flag, you know that I gave him a green flag. So I do like him. I gave Oscar a green flag. I gave George a green flag. I gave Lewis a yellow flag and Max a red flag. Time to get Max out your lineup. Just can't really trust him there. It's going to come down to Sargent versus Bottas. And that is kind of the tricky situation. Like, if Sargent makes it, that's good. F1 Fantasy will probably have a way of Sargent will get on the grid and finish 14th because a bunch of cars will DNF, and Bottas will have an okay qualifying, and yeah, just kind of be that as it may. So let's see what we've got going on here on F1 Fantasy X. Oh, F1 Fantasy Hub. Rob has locked in his team. Sargent, Albon, Sonoda to Bottas. He will have a very similar lineup to myself. However, I'll be going Gasly instead of Hulkenberg, and I'll be going with George for the 2X. So that is interesting there. Stake F1 team. Pop man, I was going to roll my transfers, but I'm considering Sargent plus Sonoda to Albon plus Joe. Not happy. I'll just give that a like, make Tom feel a little bit better there. Yeah, it's almost time for qualifying. Yeah, we are coming down to it here, guys. 10 minutes to go. Teams are starting to get locked in over on X. And I think I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take one last look at these kind of projections. Sargent 1.6, Bottas 3.1. Let's see here. Let's go on to the F1 Fantasy Tools Discord because I have not gotten there yet. Ryder's stats team is out as well. So yeah, that's interesting. He is going with Mercedes, McLaren, Hamilton, Norris, Sargent, Sonoda, and Hulkenberg. So he is not scared by Sargent or Hulkenberg. He also has autopilot on. So that is the one way that he's getting out of the decision to kind of go with Hamilton versus Norris or whatever. So if I plug in, oh, it didn't like -20. If I just put in, okay. I will have to let them know. It seems like they don't. Alex says, hi, you and good morning. I love you. Go Gunners. Hi, Alex. You are up kind of early for Denver time. 10 to 6 there? Yeah, dang. Early riser this morning. I don't think, unless there's a Rapids game going on this early, I don't think you should be up that early. But thank you for watching and joining. Even if you have no interest in F1 fantasy, I greatly appreciate it. So I think I've kind of been on the boys woke me up. Yes, of course they did. That is I don't know, but I assume that is not the greatest way to wake up on a Saturday morning. I want to risk it for Sargent, kind of, but my head is telling me to just kind of roll with Bottas here because I'll just have exposure to one Williams and one Sauber, and I don't want to just. I think I'll feel extra stupid tomorrow afternoon if I go with Sargent because of I was hoping that this whole thing would happen. And if with Bottas, I've kind of been on him. I've kind of thought about him a lot this weekend. Yeah, and it just we'll never know. I mean, there's also a chance that Williams could fix the entire car and Sargent could just go off again. It's far more likely to happen than Bottas kind of DNFing or whatever. So Bottas is going in. George is getting the 2 times boost because there's really not that much difference in the team calculator. Let's see here. Russell's at 25.3, Piastri's at 27.3. That's not a big enough of a difference to kind of swing my general thinking about George Russell there. So I'm going to go with George Russell. And I did do this earlier, so I know that they're going to let me apply my chip here. So that's good. Continue. Wildcard. There we go. Wildcard is active. George, Oscar, Pierre, Alexander Albon, Valtteri Bottas, Mercedes. So yeah, I've saved myself a -40 there. So I feel like that's a good use of the wildcard. It also gives me enough space here if like Ferrari come out and like just barnstorming next weekend for the Monza Grand Prix. I can easily go from McLaren down to Ferrari and then George up to a Ferrari driver if I need to double up on Ferrari. So that still gives me some flexibility. I like Alpine this weekend, looking at the data. Pierre getting 3rd last year gets me out of the Haas business with that brake issue, which is kind of terrifying as well. Williams on the rise despite Logan Sargent's crash. So, oh my goodness, it just totally did that to me. Here, I guess I should get that together with 6 minutes to go. So let's see here. I will get to your question there as in 2 minutes because I guess, nearly screwed myself there with Oscar, or waiting too long to lock in my lab. The computer did not seem to like that. Um, but we will see there. Okay, let's just answer this here. As hello, would you stay put with McLaren, Mercedes, Piastri, Russell, Hulkenberg, Albon, Sargent? Thanks. If you don't have a lot of budget to maneuver around there, that's fine. You could maybe go Hulkenberg to Gasly. I like Gasly, but Isaac does not here. I think Gasly's super overrated here. Tough to see, but if you look at 9.6 million, is not worth it. That is fair, Isaac. But the fact that we have a brakes issue in the Haas means that it is worth it for me to kind of get Gasly in to avoid a huge potential of a DNF for Haas. So I mean, Alpine, it could easily happen to Alpine too. This is F1 fantasy, so everything kind of comes down to Sunday, but that is where we're at there. So I'm playing the wild card. Continue. I'm gonna lock this in here real quick, guys, because apparently it did not like me when I waited too long last time. Continue. Wild card activated. Boom, 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 boom. Confirm changes because we are 4 minutes to the deadline. There it is. That is the team right there. Yeah, thank you for tuning in to the live stream. Appreciate it. I guess if my wild card is active, I can still kind of make changes, but yeah. Oh, Isaac says, maybe you might be right. Praying house fix it. We'll see, Isaac, because they identified it yesterday and they didn't fix it overnight. So I'm not entirely sure what they can get up to in what they can get up to in like 2 hours between FP3 and qualifying. Locky919 says, sorry, just for go Albon or Yuki. I'm going to run similar team to you. Yeah, I'm on team Albon right now. I just got out of the Yuki business. I think these Williams upgrades are going to go well. If we look over here, Locky, you can see in the race simulation pace, Williams coming out fourth, very close amongst these other teams with Haas, Alpine, and RB, but also in the qualifying simulation. Albon qualified fourth here last year. So he has a little bit of pedigree. We can kind of rely on that as well. But this is going to be it. This is going to be my final team. I activated the wild card. I've got 3 chips left now over the final 9 races. So that is where we will be. 3 minutes to the deadline, I guess, or whatever this official clock up here says. Yeah, 3 minutes to the deadline. Let me know. I'm just going to wait here, chill out. There's not a lot of us left as we kind of wind down this stream. But if you did like it, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll be back on Monday with a race review, 4 episodes next week, talking about what happened on Sunday and then previewing the Monza Grand Prix next weekend. So you don't want to miss an episode because there'll be a ton of F1 fantasy content coming out of this YouTube channel. The Netherlands Grand Prix should be pretty wacky. We should be kind of entertained by qualifying. It should be wet. George should have the go-ahead. Kind of, he's a better wet qualifier than Oscar, in my opinion. And we will just see how it goes. I feel a lot better about this. Before I go, not fantasy rated, Ocon or Gasly? I'm a Gasly guy. Yes, just Ocon is just a little too weird. I kind of like Gasly. I feel like he is like a sneaky like contender one. Like I feel like he's on a Carlos Sainz kind of trajectory where he could end up in like a Ferrari or a Mercedes one day. I know he's already ended up in a Red Bull, but like in the later part of his career, I feel like he could also end up on one of those kind of top 4 teams and get a pretty good drive. I think there's a few more Grand Prix wins in his future. Whereas, yeah, Ocon has been around for a while. So, yeah, you say you respect it. So I'm assuming that means you're an Ocon guy. Although if Ocon Ocon is going to Haas next year. So he will have a soft spot in my heart for just being on the sole American team for now. And yeah, we are right there. 1 minute to go, probably less than a minute to go. Hope you guys have enjoyed the stream. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the comments. Really appreciate it. It's been tons of fun talking F1 fantasy for the last hour. I believe Rain is going to do a watch along for the qualification. So you can go check out his channel if you want to watch all the kind of live reactions to. I don't actually know what he did for his team, what he locked in. I don't think he's tweeted it out. So yeah, he hasn't released it yet. So, but there we are. It looks like Pop Pan Man has done his team very similar to me as well, although he has 2 times Oscar. So there might be a big gap in the community between Oscar versus George this weekend. But thank you for tuning in. Thank you for all the comments, all that stuff. I will see you Monday with a race review. But yeah, once again, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And I will talk to you next time.